Hello everyone, welcome to the SQL webinar. I'm Ankit. Let's begin this session. Let's start with SQL. What is basically the SQL means? So SQL stands for Standard Query Language. Initially, it started in somewhere early 1970s. Was being SEQUEL, which says Standard English Query Language. But later on, one of the companies, claimed that it is their trademark, so they changed the name to SQL, Standard Query Language, a language which is used to store, manipulate, and retrieve the data from databases. It is basically a relational database, which is RDBMS, and RDBMS itself is a relational database, basically. And when we say relational database, any database which is having a fixed structure. And when we say fixed structure, it means having rows and columns. And if I trim down this whole definition of SQL, let's say standard query language, a language which is used to query the structured data is what the SQL is all about. SQL is one of the most demanded programming language of data analytics. People look should have the skill in their CVs, should have to have the skill set with them. 55 to 56% of the stats, as in like people going for data analytics job profiles, should have much of the skill set as their portfolio. Employees or employers who looks after for any data jobs, what we have seen is SQL is the most highly rated programming language, followed by Python and R. So it is being one of the most widely, I can say that all the firms, or you can say most of the firms, using SQL as their database, like to use, or you can say retrieve, store, and manipulate the data. They're using this SQL query as an application. So what is the use of SQL? SQL is basically, as I mentioned, storing, retrieving, manipulating. These three words actually describes everything about SQL. And before I jump on to the practical, I just want you to imagine a bit of things with me, and then you will really understand what SQL is all about. Sake of example, you're a company and you have like thousands of rows and columns. I'll go slow, but please follow with me and focus. I want to maintain a database where I can store this information. I'm not talking about retrieving or manipulation right now. I'm saying I want to store this information. What is the best way at the moment to do it? I can't do it on Excel. I can't do, I can't use Python or R or any other tool to do that at the moment. So SQL is the best programming language for me to start working with storing the data. So when you get into this, so you start creating ways to store your information. So the first step towards SQL is creating the databases. Once you create the database, then you have to store that information within, which comprises of two elements, rows and columns. And then you feed that information, which is used as a part of our insert statement within SQL. So the first step that we did is creating a database. We created a database. We created a table. Within table, we have inserted the data that we want to. That is what I have already here. The database is known as car sales. There are basically 5 tables stored within that database known as loans, product, sales, subproduct, and target. Most of the firms, when they store their data, they the table name which is somewhere what data actually this table consists of. And before you write any SQL query, it is very much important to understand what data exists within it. To start with the SQL query, so we are talking about the storing. So we talked about creating database, creating table, inserting the. We have added our data. We have stored our data. In terms of manipulation, when we say, it means that, sake of example, you have 10,000 rows and column. You want to edit those rows. Instead of writing a name, Ankit, I'll probably mention something else there. So you can change, update, alter the data, and that is what we call it as manipulating or altering the data which is given there, or you can add 10,000 more rows and columns to the given data set. Third is retrieving, or you can say data mining. It is a very fancy word that we use, data mining, and most of the firms uses that. To start with the SQL, the first statement that you have to write is select. Now think practically. Go with me and focus what I'm trying to say. To retrieve any data from a table, the first statement that you write or first clause that you write is select. We have stored our data. We are not talking about the manipulation. We are talking about retrieving or mining of the data. So we started with the sentence select. Select what? I say, okay, I want to select everything. And everything is being described by star in SQL. From where you want to retrieve? The statement says from. This is fixed. You cannot change this statement. Select will always remain there. Star will remain there. So select star from, it means select everything from. Now you need to give a table name. And as I mentioned, in this database of car sales, there are 5 tables given there. So I'll say sales. If I run this query, it will give me all the data that is being stored in this table. And before I explain you more statements and everything, I want to see all the tables. And I want you to understand what this data contains, like what this table looks like. Let's look into this first. So this table consists of product ID, product sub ID, customer, sales date, country, who did the sales, and it's with currency. So that is what this table consists of. Yeah. Now the second table that we have in this database, let's take select again star from products. So if I run this, what did we get? We got the product ID and brand name. The one of the most important concept of SQL is primary key and the foreign key. The primary key of a one table is a foreign key of another. That's more of a theoretical. If you talk about the very layman language, I'll say two columns having the value are the and is going to be used to join tables. Understand that you cannot store all your data in one table. You have to split your data in multiple tables to avoid duplicacy and increase the efficiency of your SQL queries. So if you run this, you find this product ID here. And if I run this, ID given here as well. So you can see that the product ID of sales and prod ID of product is a same value. So going forward, we will link that. But what we understand that is we're talking about the sales of different brands of car, either in India, New York, Australia, by different sales executive in different currencies. So we are getting the data now. Third table says subproduct. Now subproduct says, okay, there's an ID and there are further variants, price, the engine capacity, the mileage, type, and discounts. Now we can link about it. We said, okay, there's a firm having 3 branches, India, Australia, and New York. And further, they're selling different car brands or brands of car. And further, they have variant to it. Desire from Maruti, you have i20 from. So now they have a stats. Now you can link about it. Sales, then further you have product, what the brand that you're selling, and further that you have a sub product of it. Next is from loan. Okay, it means how many customers have taken the loan and what is the now this cust ID is same as customer ID. Note that there is no quick or fast way of finding this relationship of two IDs or primary key and the foreign key. You have to do this permutation combination when you're scrubbing your data in the database to see which ID actually is a primary and the foreign key. Third one is the target. And as the name says, it means what is the target of the particular branch to achieve. It says India, New York, and Australia have different branches. So now we understand that it's a more of a sales data wherein we are selling different brands of further variants. In case somebody have taken loan, you have that information as well. And what is the target that these different branches have to achieve? That is the whole database will look like. Now let's play a bit more on that. Let me remove these tables. I don't want that right now. So when we run this, we get all the data because we have mentioned star. But in case you want to look after for any specific data like country, sales executive, or currency, you have to mention the name of the column here. Country, sales, executive, and currency. Now, as you can see, we have the data for the columns that we looked after. You can further use a statement. Now, this is quite India is written 10, 100 times or whatever. I don't know. I have to make it more sorted. To do that, there's a statement that we write known as order by. It's very simple. Again, it's more of an English language, so it's very clear in the terms it is being used. Order by country. It means give me anything with an ascending order. It's by default ascending. In case you want to make it descending, write a keyword DSC and it will give you in descending order. Now, if you see, let me make it ascending again. I can see in like if you go back to India or even for Australia, Sheen is being given multiple times. It means this is showing me a duplicate data and we don't want that. Nobody wants that. So you have to get rid of this duplicate data. How? The statement that we use is distinct. This is a keyword to remove the duplicacy. So when you run this, it will give you the distinct data, the unique data. Now let's talk about few options of filtration. It's always recommended that never run the query like this. Don't run query like this until and unless you're aware of the fact that table consists of very low number of rows. In my case, I have like millions of data in one table stored. I don't want to run that query like this because it will somewhere either hang my query or it is like it will keep on running. So that is never being recommended. And your database is linked to the front end. As I mentioned, Facebook is linked to server and the database. If my database is somewhere hanged, it can impact the performance of my website. A very simple example. So for that, it's always recommended that you use filtration in that. To start the filtration, we use a clause known as where. Simple. Select every from cells where I want to use country equals to India. Now, one thing to note that for anything apart from numeric, you have to add a single inverted comma for it. It gave me everything for India. So this is a single feature, can say filtration we used. But in case I say, I want to see two countries, probably India and New York, then what shall I do? If I write the statement like this, it won't work and we can run it. It gave me error here. Why? Because equals to doesn't work with the list. To make sure you run the list with the filtration, we use in statement. In as a keyword. So when we say select star from sales, where country in these two countries, it will give you the stats for that. Now, just a small minor change to this is what if I these two countries and I want anything apart from that? So you use not within. So it says select star from everything from sales, where country not in India and New York. It means you're left with only Australia. And that is the stats you have. Furthermore, next statement that you can write, or you can say using multiple filtration, is with using and. It means you have to satisfy these two conditions to get, and probably what I need is sales executive equals to James. So, so anything which is not in India and New York and having a sales executive as James will give me this information. Another way of writing or adding a filtration could be like another AND statement. It says, okay, I need sales. I want to add a filter on sales date as well. I want to see sales date between. So another keyword says between, I'll say 23rd, or I can say 10th of January and 26th of January. Follow the statements. Understand the logic. Sales date between these two dates, as simple as it is. So when you run this, it further filtered out. So let's talk about more in terms of filtration when we add some more clauses there. Now, since we talked about different tables, and again in database we look after for joining two or multiple tables, how can we do that? There are three major joins that we use, which is inner join, left join, and right join. What does these means? Let's go with it. So as we talked earlier, that this sales table consists of product ID, product sub ID, customer ID. These are the IDs that you're going to link the other tables with. Let's link the product ID first, and then we'll add product sub. That you write for joining two tables, inner join, and the table that we want to use is product. It means now select everything from sales, join the table known as product. You have a statement or a keyword in is on. This is very much important. It says, this is, do you want to join these two tables? So say sales dot product ID equals to products dot, let's see the keyword here, or the column name, prod ID. Now, this is a very basic way of writing. You can amend it other way around, is by giving an alias to the table name. This is a very small, and I don't prefer to write this sales and product all the time in my query. So I'll give a small short name to this table. Say, for example, A and B. So instead of writing now sales and product, I can say A and B. Now, if we run this query, let's see what happens. Now you can see you have all the sales stats along with the brand name, because we matched with the product ID and the prod ID. Third one is I want to see the furthest subcategory within the given brand. So now you can add another join to the given table. Inner join. Now the table that we want to use is sub product. Now let's give it another alias or a short name as C on A dot prod sub ID equals to C dot, and let's see what we have there. So if you run this statement, it will give me everything that is being stored here. So you can see that you have all the data from all the three tables given here now. So you have sales date, the region that you have, the sales executive, brand name, and further detail in terms of which car has been sold. Let's play with this data a bit there now. Instead of using star, I would try to use some column specific names like country, sales executive, currency, then brand name, then variant, price, type, and the discount. Something is not correct. Okay, the brand name have some issue, just a minute. Right, so now we have this information. So in this information, I can see the price and the discount, but doesn't give me the actual sales. So we can do that here itself. So if you want to see what is the actual sale price of the given brand or given variant, we can do the calculation right itself by saying price into discount. And this percentage is not basically going to do any mathematical function here. So you have to make sure you divide it here to make it like 0.1 to make it discountable value. So if I say this and say actual discount amount, you can see. So we multiplied price with the discount divided by 100, and we have given a name to that column stating actual discount amount. Now, if you want to see the actual sale price, we can say the price minus the actual discount. Now you can give an alias again here to say actual sales amount. That is what the actual sales is. Now, we have all the information that we need. Now in terms of actual sales of based on the different countries, how we can do, there are two basic methods of doing that. One is creating the subquery, another is creating a view to do that. I'll go through them quickly. Now, as we mentioned earlier, these are the tables we have added in the database. Now you can also create subqueries by creating a small table of itself. Now this data that we retrieved here is now become a table, and we are going to play with that data. How? Like this. Now we are saying select star from. Now this data set is another table on which we are running the stats or running the query. So if I close this with using this parenthesis, when we run this statement, it will give me, okay, I have to give an alias here. Let's give it A. So you have all the information. So if we run this query or if we run this query, it is giving me the same result, because now we made this kind of a table now and retrieving all the information from that table using this statement. Now let's see some more functions within SQL. So now I want to see the total sales of the based on the region. So you have country, I want to see as based on country, and sum, the function in SQL is now used using actual sales amount. Sale amount. Note that this is an alias. You cannot use this name within this query. You have to create a subquery to use this as a name, or a view to use this as a name. It won't run because for any aggregate functions, for any mathematical functions like sum, you find average, standard deviation, mean, mode, anything that you look after, run only based on a function group by. Every time you add a field and say, sum, average, mean, median, you have to use this as a group by function. I'll explain a bit more. Group by country. If it is running fine or not. It is. Now the total sales of India is this, New York and Australia. What does the group by means? It means that you have to group this. You have to use this as a parameter and then give me the result of the sum. If I add the salesperson name here, then it will take India, and say example you have A, B, C, D as a sales executive. Then it will take country with A, country with B, country with C. This is the groups now, and will give you the sum of amount there. That is a function of group by statement. It is grouping. So let me add something here. Let's add brand name. Now, if I run this statement, it doesn't make any sense because you have to add it here as well, because you have to group this here. Another point to be noted is so in most of the cases, either use Oracle or MySQL Workbench, most of the functions works the same, except few where there's small tweaks in Oracle which doesn't work in MS Workbench. So in Oracle, when you run the statement, like without, for example, like this, it won't run. But however, in Workbench, it does run and give you the result, but not that appropriate. So it's always recommended whenever you're using any aggregate function here, always do group by of all the columns given with it. So when you run this, it will give you everything here. You have Australia, you have a sales of Maruti with this amount and all those things. Again, you can give an alias to it. Let me remove this. Let me run this again. Next is we can use average as a function. What is an average sales? Average actual sales. Now I can give actual average sales. I can say total sales. That is what it looks like. Now this number looks quite weird to me. I really don't want to use this much of a decimals. So to use that, to trim it down, there's a function known as round. And I think you must have studied somewhere in Excel as well. You can round or trim your numbers according to the decimal places you want to. And same works here as well. I want to trim down to 2 decimal points. Here it is. So these are the functions, small functions, more of aggregate functions or numeric functions, which will help you in trimming down your data or giving you the stats as per your need. Let me remove this, run it again. Now, this is a very small data set. I can simply see that, India is somewhere outperforming compared to New York and Australia. But if when you have millions of data, when you have thousands of rows, when you run the same statement there, it's very much difficult. If you have like 10,000 rows like this, it's like, I don't know who's performing best. What we can do to make sure we're able to find the top one in a glimpse of it. So for that, I want to use, I'll show you the view as well, and we'll talk about how we can, rank them based on their total sales. So let me create a view first. To create a view, we use a statement known as with. So when I say with ABC as, now we have created this as a temporary view using a keyword with, and have given that view a name ABC. If I run the same statement that we started with, select star from, now ABC. We are pulling the data from a temporary view now. So if we run this, we get the same data. I cannot run this. If I exclude this and run it, it gives me error. So now we created a view which is ABC, and we can play around with it. Now let's see what we can do. Now again, think of the data is quite big. I want to give a rank to it. How would I give? Who is the top performer? I don't know. So let's see. Now instead of putting star, I prefer to write a name, country, it's not case sensitive at all, and total sales. Same thing. Now, there are 3 things that is being used in SQL most often to define the ranks. Now, it depends upon situation to situation, which one you want to use and how you want to. SQL is very simple to understand, but it is very much complicated sometimes when you use it in a real, situations. You have to understand the logics and the concepts of SQL. It's very much easy. The function's very quite straightforward, but when you implement it, make the query efficient is different. I've written around 4 to 5. There's one query I was working on. I've written 4 pages of query because that is a demand that time of the product. I took 15 days to create that query. But later on, I trimmed down that query from 4 pages, which was earlier taking 4 minutes to run, now trimmed down to the half page of query running in 15 seconds. 15 is like maximum I'm talking about. That is what to talk about the efficiency and effectiveness. I'm not here to give you the lecture on that, but everybody in this world is looking after for the efficiency. Nobody's looking after people who do the job in 1 hour. They want people to do job as quickly as possible. And same applies to databases as well. And running the queries is easy, but making the queries which is effective enough to run the database is something that we need to look after. Everybody wants an effective query. No developer, no admin, no IT wants the database to be heavy enough. Your queries should not be heavy enough to bring load on the database. So you have to write effective queries. Now let's talk about it. Talk about the ranking piece. Row number. There's a function known as row number. It is equivalent to providing a serial number to the rows. So if I write this is a statement you have to write like this only. Order by. What does it mean? It says give me the row number or give this a row number over using the order by as a total sales. So if we run this, let me give a name as well, row num. It says 1, 2, 3. It is same as a serial number. There's no change in it. It won't change because of anything. Let's see the next one. It says, and the way you write the query in terms of the structure is also important. Rank. Again, the function will, the way you write will remain the same. I have no clue, I didn't work. Okay, the function of rank and dense rank. It is very much important to understand the difference between rank and dense. Explained on Excel here. Okay, I want to explain the difference between rank and dense rank. So row number is quite straightforward. Rank and dense rank have a small bit of a change. Dense rank. What does it mean? Okay, so sake of example, a very basic one is there's a name written A, B, C, and D. Or let me put the numbers 12, 13, 13, and 14. Now, as a very layman, I can say that, this is top one, this is second, this is second, and this is third. Sorry, these are third ranks. Simple. I can give a number. In ranking, it will say 1, it will give 2, it will give 2, and it will give 4 here. Whereas dense rank work like this. This is the only difference and biggest difference between rank and dense rank. And personally, I use dense rank far more better, more often than compared to rank. In rank, it will count that row as well and then give you the next number. So it counted, okay, 1, 2, 3, okay, third, it will ignore that number and give you the next number of it. It will find, okay, there are 3 rows already passed. It will give you this as a fourth instead of 3. That is, it's not a drawback, but it's more of a functionality come in SQL. So in dense rank, it will, if the values are common, if they are same, it will give you the same rank there, same for rank as well in this function as well. But the next number would be the consecutive or followed from the previous. But in rank, it will skip the number of time the repetition happened here. If there's 2 repetition happened, it will not take this as third, but will take the next, which is fourth. I'm not sure if you get that point, but this is the only difference between rank and dense rank, and this is being very vastly used in SQL. So you have to understand the concept. There's another concept that comes with this is partition by, which is of not like I don't think this session can take that at the moment because that's a big wider concept in terms of partition by. So we can also use this term partition by here, but I can't go it right now because there's a lot of information required there. So this is what we talked about rank. Let's go back a bit in terms of the joins that we talked about. Let me open another SQL. Let's see. Let's start from sales. We can run. Now you can see there's a lot of data. I believe there are hundreds of rows. Somebody have a question? Um, in case you have any question, please post it on the questions tab and I can answer from there. Okay. Now, we talked about inner join, which is like joining two tables. There's another way of doing the inner join, which is like this: sales and subproducts, for example. And I'll give the alias A and B. Honestly speaking, I started like this. I haven't used, when I started with my SQL, I haven't used inner join, outer join, or left or right kind of a joins. I started like this, wherein you can straight away say that, okay, this is table one, this is table two. Now we're going to use the filtration. But in filtration, you have to tell on what columns you're going to make the join, or which columns are common on which you want to make a join. Again, A dot, you have prod sub id equals to B dot prod id. I think it's product. No, I have to check. Just give me 1 second. It's ID. Let me dig up the question. I'll explain that, Pooja. Just give me 1 second. So if you run like this, it will give you the same thing as the another one. So if I on this query and this query are same, but why did Ankit told me this first, not this? Because this is not the efficient way of writing the query. In SQL, the system defines, there's a way you write the query. It's like there's a sequence of things that is being read. Like this is out of the scope of this session, but SQL reads your query line by line in a proper sequence of it. In this query, it says look at the join first and then run the query. In this statement, it says look into the table first and then look for the joins, which means it will scrub your whole table and then look after for the filter or the join. In this instance, it is looking at the join first. It means it is making your query far more faster or efficient compared to this. So it is not recommended. Now, the third one is, or you want to tend the right join. What does the left join? Let me put the name lone right join. Oh, what does it mean left and right? Left and right means retrieve everything from the left table and whatever matches with the left, sorry, with the right table. For example, you have 10 rows in this and 10 rows, I can say 5 rows in this, that it will give you all the 10 rows. Let's look into the example rather than talking theoretically. A dot customer ID, let me quickly pull it. Customer ID equals to B dot column cust ID. This is something is missing in this. If I run this, I'll get an error. It is the keyword on. Yeah, perfect. So if I run this, it will give me everything from the table sales and whatever matches with the right table, which is loan. And that is where you can see the null happening coming in everywhere. So whatever in all those instances where you have this loan exists, like those people who have taken loan is coming up, but other information from the sales table is also coming in. Whereas if I make it right, what will happen? Let's see. It will only give me the information. So it will give me the information from the right table matching with the left. But in this instance, it has taken all the information from the loans only and not everything from the sales, only the one which is matching on the sales. And obviously, it is matching everything from sales. In case there is something which is not matching in sales, it will still come, but with a null value, as we have seen for the left. So that is what we have as a left and the right join. Somebody asked me to repeat on the rank. I'll just quickly do that. Okay. The difference between rank and dense rank, or what the rank means, it is giving a rank based on this number as we did here. So in case of this, like New York, Australia, India, it is, let's make it descending because we want to give a top rank to with the highest sales. Now India is on the top. We are giving rank based on this total number. The higher the number, the region which is having the highest sales, I want to give it the first rank, followed by having second highest number and followed by the third highest number. In case there is, let me put it on Excel. Let me add another line here. So I need to add headers as well. In our country or sales. Now in this instance, when I say give a rank to these values, I'll say, okay, when you run this function on SQL, it will give you 1, 1, and that will give you 2 and 3. Oh, my bad. It will give you, and then fourth. Are you getting? It will count the duplicate value. Whereas in dense rank, it says 1, 1, 2, and 3. It will count the duplicate as 1 and will follow the next consecutive number of that. 1 after, like 2 will come, like 1, then you will get 2, then 3. That's a consecutive numbers, right? But in case of a rank, if there's a duplicate, it will count that number at the back end and say, okay, the next number should be, you exclude that duplicacy part and then give the next one. It says, okay, 1, okay, you counted this a duplicate value. Okay, now the next number won't be 2, it would be 3 because there's a duplicate value earlier. That is what the rank means. Rank and dense rank are really very important concepts. So yeah. So Sean, you're asking about the like keyword. So you want to understand when you're using filtration with like? Yeah, so I'll explain that. One second. So say for example, let me run it here itself. So say for example, I want to see the name, or can say name starting with A. So the way you write is sales executive like. If I write A like this with 2% sign, it means A anywhere within the name will appear. So you can find A anywhere in this name. Whereas if I say, let me remove this percentage sign, it means the name should start from A. That's only one. And say, percentage sign on the left. Let me remove it from here. It means the name of the executive should be ending with A. You have all the names ending with A. So that is how you write A. Now, just add on to it is when you say A, I say, no, I don't want anything ending with A. But rather than saying I want everything that is ending with, say, you use a keyword, not. Sales executive, where name is not ending with A. So you have all the names without ending with A. Does that answer your question? Cool. Anybody have any other question? Okay, thank you so much for attending. Thank you.